Today we are talking about Oscar nominations. Welcome to Screens in Focus, the podcast where we talk about TV and movies. I'm Diana and Rene is joining me today. We are going to break down the Best Picture nominees, standout performances, and give our predictions for Hollywood's biggest night. Rene, I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited to get to all this. So, we normally start off with a question of the day that I'll pose
Mhm.
to you and our friends out there, and then we will answer it later on in the podcast episode.
Sweet.
So, that question is, what is your favorite movie from 2024 that was not nominated? Okay? Because
I
there's
think I have it
so
already, but we'll get back to it.
awesome. All right. So, friends out there, think about that. And we're going to revisit this a little bit later on. Okay. So, the Oscars have been full of surprises and standout performances and incredible storytelling. This year's Best Picture nominees are a mix of musicals and horror and historical dramas and so much more. So, we're going to break it all down. And we are going to start with Anora. And this film follows the story of a young woman as an exotic dancer, a sex worker navigating a whirlwind romance that leads to unexpected consequences. What did you think about this movie?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. This was probably it's hard to rank it exactly where, but I think this is definitely like one of my top 5 films of the year favorites. I think this film kind of went somewhere that I wasn't expecting it to based
Mm-hmm.
on like the trailer and like what I was thinking the movie was going to be about. I thought it was going to spend a lot more time with these two characters and like them getting a little bit closer, and then it kind of turned into this chase where I didn't anticipate it turning into that. And you know, that being said, though, I still enjoyed it. I still really enjoyed like the turns and all of the twists. Yeah, what did you think about it?
I just recently saw this one. This is one of the
Hmm.
latest ones that I saw. And I wasn't sure I was going to get to watch it, but
Hmm.
I'm so glad that I did. I have to say, this one grew on me.
Hmm.
When I was first watching it, I wasn't sure how I felt about it. And it's interesting because that'll happen to me with certain films. I watch it, I like it, but it gets me to thinking. And the more I read about it and the work and the effort that went into it, and so many things, it makes me appreciate it even more. And that happened with this one. I found myself laughing and I wasn't sure if I
Yeah,
was supposed to, right? Because I'm
yeah,
like, wait, is this? And then I read, yeah, it's supposed to be that. It's supposed to be comical at points because then without giving anything away to people who haven't watched it, there's an ending that is tough to
yeah.
watch. And that kind of made the whole movie kind of come together. And I thought it was going to be, because I had heard about it being a romance and they likened it to Pretty Woman. And I thought, oh, okay. You had an idea of where it might go. And
Right.
you have to watch to see where it does go. But,
Yeah.
what made me laugh, one of the things that made me laugh was the invasion scene where Annie, it's Anora, but she goes by Annie, she was screaming and screaming and screaming. I was like, I couldn't help but laugh. And then the fight that she had with the guys that were trying to calm her down, it's like, she's like, it's hysterical. I thought that was one of my favorite scenes of it all.
Yeah,
But
Mike. I think like Mikey Madison was super charming in this movie. Like I think this is at least from what I remember her first like starring role in a film, and I think she was fantastic. And from all the interviews and press that I saw, I mean, people were just like praising her, giving her flowers, and I think she deserves it. I think she was fantastic.
yeah, she was. I
Yeah,
I always think, well, okay, back when I was her age, could I have done this? Personally, me, no. I do put myself because I appreciate acting and I've taken acting classes before and such. So I always think, could I have done that? And that always makes me think about so many of these people, how incredible they are. And, just putting themselves on the line for a role and just being that person. And I give her so much credit for doing that. And I thought that, yes, it was a great performance by her. And I was hearing that the director was just saying how she did little nuances that just he wasn't expecting and he appreciated from her. There was a scene where they go to the mansion where she brings her friend. And he said there was a moment when she looked at Vanya, and they were counting down the number, but she got distracted because she was looking at him, and then she had to catch up with what was happening with her and her friend. So he
Yeah.
just saw these little pieces. And I love hearing that. I love hearing what the director or whoever was anticipating, or and the things that the actor brought to it, or anything like that. I love all those insights to all that. So it's kind of cool to hear that.
Yeah. No,
But
100%. Yeah,
yeah,
and Annie and Vanya's like relationship in it. Again, like I kind of wish that we could have seen more, but
yeah,
I think I enjoyed that it wasn't exactly what I expected it to be. And I think like Yuri Borisov, I think does a really
yeah,
good job of kind of like making us fall in love with him. And it's like
yeah,
you kind of like believe what he's telling Annie in that film, and then you almost feel kind of, not to give it away, but kind of like betrayed in that it's not what you thought it was going to be and what they were going to be.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, Yuri was really good. He's nominated also. And
Hmm.
he played Igor. Is it Igor? I don't know if I'm saying his.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah. Ah, good movie. So check it out. All right. So, oh, I do want to mention that the director, Sean Baker, said this was inspired by a story from a friend about a Russian American newlywed who was kidnapped for collateral.
I
So,
didn't know that. So
yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. So he's like, okay, I know this from a friend, and I'm going to write this movie now. So I like that tidbit. All right. So the next movie is The Brutalist. So this is a sweeping historical drama starring Adrian Brody as a visionary architect escaping post-war Europe, trying to rebuild his life and career in America. All right. What did you think of this movie?
Yeah, this one was a lot, obviously, with how long of a film it was. I appreciated that they had the 15-minute intermission, because I think
Yeah.
it was definitely much needed. And I think it actually makes sense in terms of like it's practical for the audience, obviously, to have that break. But then I think for the
Right.
film itself, like you can definitely feel the difference in the first half of the film versus like the second half. I mean, that's when it takes a turn once his family joins him. So I think it was nice that it was kind of split into the first half being like his struggles adjusting to a new life in America versus having to adjust to his family and their adjustment here. So I really enjoyed that part of it. And yeah, I think that was mainly what I came away thinking.
Yeah, this movie was long, 3.5 hours long for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. I knew going in that it was filmed using VistaVision,
Hmm.
which is I didn't know specifically about it. I just knew that it was, and then I read a little bit more about that and how it has a higher resolution for its images. So I went in like knowing I wanted to see visually, take notice of it, and it was so beautiful.
Hmm.
Just even driving, as they would drive and you were like riding in the car with them, that those shots, there was a couple of them, and I thought it was so beautiful. It was almost as if you could see the texture of the film, which I thought was so cool. I just loved it. Okay, this is nothing like it, but I'm going to bring it up because it's my favorite TV series, and that's The Walking Dead. But
Okay.
earlier on in The Walking Dead, the first couple of seasons, especially the first season, it had this look. And anytime they were out in the woods, I just loved it. It was the way it was filmed. And that wasn't filmed exactly like this was, but I'm just saying it gave me, there was just something about it that intrigues me and it makes me interested in what I'm watching visually.
Right.
And also, The Brutalist is brutalism, which is architecture, which I wasn't aware of either. The style emphasizes exposed construction and materials and texture and just large and heavy looking structures. So
Right.
that's why we saw, what he, and kind of starkness, like when he created it earlier in the film, when he created that reading room, that library, and it was like hardly anything in there.
Right.
Um, but you've got to like that, I guess, that type to appreciate that, I
Yeah,
suppose.
yeah. Especially like the the building, if you want to call it that, like the combination of so much that he's trying to accomplish. He There was so much that was going into it, and I think by the end of the film, it wasn't what I was expecting for it to look like. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
just based on like the plans that they gave him,
Yeah.
so I kind of like that he took his own spin on it, and he wasn't letting like what they wanted it to be kind of clash with like his vision for it at the end of the
Right.
day.
Right.
Yeah.
And also his story was compelling too. Hungarian and just coming post war, and his wife and him are separated, and not knowing if your wife is alive, and your wife and your niece, and just when he first comes and he hears from his cousin that she's alive, the way he cried, or not cried, but was like, so he did cry, right? He cried on his cousin.
Right.
I felt that. I thought, oh my gosh, this is such a true moment that went through so many people's lives. And I had heard something Adrian Brody talk about. His mom is Hungarian, and her parents, of course, and his mom is a photographer, so an artist. So he felt like he was bringing some of his own family life heritage here. So he was bringing that with him. And I think that's why his performance was so important to him. You can see through his performance that it was working through him through this film.
Yeah.
But there were so many pivotal moments in here with him that were heartbreaking, and his wife. And one story that I found really interesting was when Guy Pearce character, who is the rich, wealthy guy who hires Laszlo, is Adrian Brody's name, right? Laszlo
Right.
Toth, I believe. Yeah. Who hires him to build this center that he wants in his mother's name. But when he talks about that backstory of his grandparents and how they treated the mom and how he treats them, I was so gripped. I think there was a moment where he paused to talk to somebody, and I was like clutched, like, I'm like, are you going to finish the story? I want to know what
Mhm.
happens. I thought that was such an intriguing story, and very telling of the type of person that he was too.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I think like Adrian Brody's performance in particular as Laszlo, I think definitely spoke to me. My parents were immigrants, so I can't speak to being an immigrant myself and that experience, but I mean, as a son of immigrants, then I can definitely like empathize with the experience of coming to a country that
Right.
you don't know. I mean, he knew the language, but even still, it's difficult. It's not your native tongue,
Yeah.
it's not something, it's a completely different culture, and having to find your way. I mean, it's such a contrast. Like, he's such a respected architect in his homeland versus here. It's like that doesn't even matter until eventually Guy Pearce's character comes to realize, okay, this is someone who's highly respected and highly celebrated. And
Right.
now he treats him with respect after having seen his accolades, but he
Right.
didn't he didn't initially
No.
treat him that way. So I mean, that performance, I mean, he was fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, and I did love the friendship that Laszlo had with that buddy of his and the kid. I'm sorry, I don't recall their name, but
I don't either.
the guy,
I
yeah,
don't blame
the,
you.
yeah, the guy that he met in line for the soup kitchen and stuff. That was, I appreciated that relationship. Also, I didn't realize a lot of these things were going to happen because they do touch on drug addiction, which I had
Yeah.
no idea that was, going to be in this. So many revelations while watching this. They touched on a lot, and I thought it was very, very well written, although I did think it was long. I felt I felt that. I thought, okay, this is a long movie. I don't know if a lot of people could take this, but yes, the 15 minutes was so well appreciated. It was kind of cool to have that 15 minutes. People don't do that
It was
too
nice. Yeah,
often.
it was
Yeah.
definitely nice. I think it definitely dragged a little bit at the end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think for me the first half of the movie I think was there's not really too many scenes that like come to mind where I thought, this wasn't necessary. I was like deeply like gripped by everything. I
Yeah.
think like the second half, I think there were some scenes where it just felt a little bit long for my taste and
Yeah.
kind of lost me for a little bit. But I think like overall, I mean, there's no doubt like everyone like enjoys the film, at least most people. So I think that I agree with that.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to Conclave. So, this is a gripping political thriller that takes viewers inside the Vatican as cardinals gather to elect a new pope. Okay, what'd you think of this one?
I I thought it was. This is probably not the reaction that you're you're expecting, but I thought it was kind of funny, the fact that
No, I think I
I
think
think it
some
is funny.
people, yeah, I think people, I, yeah, I think that's an honest reaction. I think it was meant to be a bit comical, even though
Yeah,
it isn't, but it
it's like a
kind of
serious topic,
is.
but I think
Yeah.
like the way they
Yeah.
handle it, the the election of the papacy and all of these cardinals, they're all gossiping like teenagers, and the way that
Yeah.
they have like their cliques, and they're speaking about, look over here. They all sit with their fellow countrymen, and they're not, like you say, it's diversity, but people tend to steer towards like the people and the cultures that they know, and it's like I see that, and I mean, I don't blame them for that, but I think it's funny the way that they'll be talking behind the back of one character, and then the
Yeah.
next scene they're smiling in their face and greeting them as if like they weren't just completely talking shit about them a minute ago.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think it's funny. Yeah.
I love that, and that is so true. And I think that's why I liked it. I liked this more than I thought I was going to. Although I
Hmm.
did want to watch it because I had heard buzz about it. I'm like, this is supposed to be good, but I was thinking Pope, and is this going to be serious? I had no idea. And I love that it turned out to be the way that it was. Without giving anything away, I love the whole ending, how that all transpired and what ended up happening. I thought it was so good. I love that cardinal that is elected. I just liked his, even that actor, his being, the way he was, the way he spoke, his portrayal. I just thought it was really well done.
Hmm.
Ray
Hmm.
Fiennes was super good too, and I thought that the visuals were amazing. The colors, the hallways. I felt like I was back. I visited Italy, and I've been to the Sistine Chapels and the Vatican and all of that, and so it was so beautiful to see that again. And it felt like it was really giving people who haven't been there or people who have been there a visit back there. So I just thought that it was really beautifully done. The colors, how they were wearing red and the way it looked and the hallways and such. So it is beautifully done. And director, it's Edward Berger. I did want to mention his name. Oh, and the cinematographer was Stefan Fontaine for that.
Gotcha. No, I really enjoyed, in particular, like the relationship between Ray Fiennes and Stanley Tucci's characters.
Yeah,
Like their relationship together. I think the casting was perfect. I mean, it's hard to imagine like who I would cast in a movie
right.
about this in particular, but it did seem like they did a really good job of that. So, I mean, kudos to them. You know.
Yes, so much of the cast, Isabella Rossellini, because she's
Hmm.
nominated as supporting actress, and she's only in it a little bit, but man, her portion is so impactful. John Lithgow is in this too, so everybody is really good. It's a great movie, and I
Hmm.
would recommend it to people.
Yeah, I'm glad that it made the list. Although I don't know that it's a front runner necessarily, but I do think it deserves its spot here. I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. All right. So Emilia Perez is next. And so this is a thought provoking crime drama, follows a lawyer who gets entangled in the world of a cartel leader undergoing a major transformation. You haven't
Unfortunately, I
seen
didn't
this
catch
one.
this one.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I didn't catch this one, which I'm kicking myself because I mean, as we were talking about, it's on Netflix. It's super accessible, but I've heard a lot about it, so I don't think I could speak to, obviously, like I haven't seen it firsthand, but from what I'm hearing from critics and from audiences, there is a lot of controversy around this film, and a lot of, what I'm seeing is, I mean, I think more you can speak to it, but what I've seen is that there is a little bit of hesitation or a little controversy behind the portrayal of the cultures
Mm-hmm.
and trans people as well. So I think
Mm-hmm.
there's two sensitive subjects that I think
Right.
people would have liked for it to be handled a little bit differently. So I'd love to hear about what you thought about it.
Okay, I'm going to tell you, I didn't go in with, I saw this earlier on, and I didn't go in with those knowing those particular things. And I didn't view it through that. Sometimes I just watch movies for what they're trying to tell me. Are they
Hmm.
thought provoking? Was I gripped by it? Was I entertained by it? What was it? So I liked it when I saw it.
Hmm.
I thought because it's a musical and it, like you said, it deals with different subjects happening here. Let me just talk about the musical part for a second. I thought it was going to be like a musical, In the Heights, or I don't know, something, West Side Story, whatever it might be, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't like that. It was just pieces of music just to transition from one scene to another. So people weren't belting
Interesting.
out big old songs. Okay. It wasn't like that. Sure, there were some songs, but it's not like a big song from a beginning to an end. Sometimes it was just people chanting a certain way, or they were singing in Spanish. But the musical part of it was, and a lot of people hated the music. They hated it. It was
I'm
so
I'm I'm open to
polarizing.
musicals. Like I'm open to it, but now I'm interested to see like what that exactly looks like.
Yeah, so I was okay with the music. In fact, I appreciated that it wasn't full length songs because I didn't want to hear that. I just wanted to get to the meat of it. Okay, Zoe Saldana was so good in her role. She plays Rita, this lawyer who is helping Emilia, and I can't even say enough about her. It is such a well-deserved nomination for her, and the wins that she has received through other award shows. But the story is interesting, and I hate to give too much away, but you kind of have to give parts of it
Yeah, go for
away.
it. Yeah, yeah.
So
Why not? Yeah.
all I want to say really was that, here we have a cartel guy who hires Rita to help him transition to Emilia because he wants to leave being a cartel and wants to be a woman, lead a life as a woman. Selena Gomez plays his wife who has two children. He needs to get out of this, being a cartel leader and now being, living the life of a woman, which he wants to do. But once he does that, he misses his family. And I'm not going to
Yeah.
tell you any more about that, but
Yeah.
that's the gist of what is happening here. So I was wondering, how is she going to live her life without her family that she loved? And that was the interesting part to me. And that was the part that kept me wondering how this was going to move forward. How was this going to end? What are we going to see? How is this going to happen? And it's very dramatic, a lot of things that happen. And I felt a lot of tension. Emilia, because we know she was a cartel boss. And how are you going to handle things? Because being
Yeah.
a cartel boss, you kill people. So, yeah. So, all that other stuff wasn't playing into me watching it. So,
Hmm.
I liked it. I don't know about the 13 nominations it received. I wouldn't say it's the top movie, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So that
That's
is
surprising.
my,
No, it is. I
yeah.
mean, it's for me to say that it's surprising to hear that it's gotten 13 nominations without having seen it yet. I mean, I I mean, it is surprising, like from all the movies that I have seen this year,
Yeah.
and the fact that this is the one that's kind of risen above the top. And from what I've heard from other people as well, I mean, they're just as surprised that this is the one that's kind of risen above the top from all the rest in the field. Especially like the more I've read about the film as well. I mean, hearing that this is a French director.
Right.
There's no
Jacques. Adiard.
Mexican actress. Yeah, yeah, right.
Sorry.
And
Yeah.
there's no lead Mexican actors or actresses. I mean, Selena Gomez, but and then I read something about it that there's only a few, like a handful of scenes that are shot in Mexico, even though it's portrayed to be in Mexico. So I think that's where the controversy is like coming from, where maybe it's not as authentic as people want it to be, and I think maybe
Right.
that's what held it back from being what people wanted it to be or like
Yeah.
would hope it would be. And I could totally understand that because I don't think that that's to say that a French director can't authentically like portray Mexico but and its culture, but I think from what I'm hearing it's maybe a little bit of a miss.
And also, he only speaks French. So
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't speak English or Spanish. I did read that he didn't do a lot of research on some of the things that were portrayed in the film, which I thought was interesting. Also, I thought, okay, they were saying a lot of the Spanish wasn't correct. And I know that there's a lot of different pockets of Spanish that people speak, but there were Spanish speaking people in the movie. Wouldn't they have said that you're saying that wrong or that's not correct or whatever it could be? So I'm just so curious how it all came together this way, or if people just being hyper, you know,
Nitpicky for no reason,
nitpicking it.
yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea. So, um, like I said, when I took it in, I just took it, I just went in. I just went
Hmm.
in. Was this a movie that captured my attention? And, you know, where did it go? And it was thought provoking. It was very thought provoking. So,
I'm definitely gonna try to catch it soon, hopefully by next Sunday, just in time. But I
yeah,
mean, it's gonna be successful. I mean, if it has 13 nominations, then it's bound to go home with a bunch of awards, or at least a few. So I mean, that's
yeah,
that's what I'm anticipating.
yeah. All right. Well, you'll have to let me know what your thoughts are after you see it.
We'll do. We'll do.
Okay, so the next movie is The Substance. Okay, so a chilling horror film that serves as a dark commentary on aging and societal expectations. What did you think of this film?
It was a tough watch. I think. I think just to put it lightly, it was super gross. These types of movies. I mean, it's hard to say like these types of movies. I think it's like very unique, but I think the body horror aspect of it, I don't do too well with these things. So it was definitely, my eyes were being covered in some scenes and kind of looking away. um, but
It
I,
was
I mean,
only the last 15 minutes mostly, right? Or was
yeah,
part of the other parts that were, did that make you cringe too? The other parts, like when
I think the
her
shrimp
other
scene.
self came out? Oh,
I think
yeah,
the shrimp was gross. I think it was like, even though that's not like, I think like traditionally like traditional body horror, I think that was a
yeah,
way that I was reading something about, that's speaking to like the standards for men versus women. I mean, like men are just
yeah.
kind of like in their own world doing whatever, and I think it shows like Dennis Quaid just eating shrimp and like being obnoxious, like eating with his mouth open versus like the means that Demi Moore's like character goes to these beauty standards. So I mean that I think like that's the message.
I really like this movie. I totally changed how I watch movies. First off, horror, I used to just watch it casually. It wasn't like up there on my list, but I've noticed this past year, this whole 2024, I watched a bunch of horror and I didn't realize it. And my letterbox told me horror is at the top of your list. I'm like, what? This isn't even my genre. It's not even something that I would normally, gravitate to watch. This movie, and I'm not even body horror. That's not even, that's even more of what I wouldn't watch. If I'm going to watch a horror, it's more psychological horror that I like. I don't even like body horror, but this movie I thought was really good and I really
Mhm.
liked it a lot. And it's probably because of what it has to deal with. So this was directed by Coralie Farja. I just saw a YouTube, I think it was Vanity Fair. It was called Notes, and it's where the directors talk about insight into a certain scene or anything like that, which I found so interesting to watch. But she was talking about symbolism, and she was talking about the shrimp scene. And she was also talking about during that scene, there was a fly in the wine that Demi Moore's character, and I think Demi Moore's character's name is Elizabeth here, but that fly was so important. Other people were saying, oh, just cut it out, just edit it. We don't need it. And she's all, no, this is important, because it symbolizes how Elizabeth in that scene is feeling, that she's drowning
Mm-hmm.
during this. And she used symbolism in this whole movie so much of the time. Like in the very beginning when she was finished working out and she was walking down the corridor, and just the colors that were used, which I thought were beautiful. It was just so striking. I loved how this film looked.
Mm-hmm.
And as she was walking down, and then we see her at the other end and we see her really small. Well, that was all purposefully put there, because at first she started out as the main center of this character, and then as she walked down the hallway she got smaller and smaller, and that was supposed to signify her being a woman and her being that age, that she felt really small.
Yeah.
And then all of that going into the men's restroom. But I just loved hearing about the symbolism that she, used in this film. I just thought that that was a great insight into that. And made me, I really want to go watch this again. I do really enjoy this film, even though the ending was really hard to watch. And I
Yeah.
know that, but I really do appreciate this film. There's so much about it that was just so well done. So
Mm-hmm.
I did
And
enjoy this one.
I think the message was really, I mean, I appreciate that it's, speaking to like the extreme like measures that in terms of like that women try to get in terms of like the beauty standards that are set for them, and going to these extremes. Obviously, like this is like a fictional version of that, but
Yeah.
I think, I mean, the means that people will go to in order to like to fit in, or in order to like be to reach these like traditional beauty
Yeah.
standards, I think is, yeah, it's, I appreciate the message.
Yeah, and that scene where she was going on that date with that guy, her preparation for that, that was so realistic and heartbreaking at the same time.
Hmm.
And yeah, it was just really well done. I really do like this movie a lot. It's even though it's horror and even though
Yeah.
it's body horror, I'm a fan of this movie. And I am so glad that horror was nominated, because it is hardly ever recognized in any award shows. So the fact that it was, this is, I there might have been another horror movie at some point in the past, but
Yeah.
it's not very many. So I
Few
was,
and far between, for
yeah,
sure. Few and
and
far between.
yeah, and it was very surprising, and I was happily surprised to see it there. So
I think it deserves its shine. I think like definitely in the past few years, I think like horror has kind of, it's going through kind of a renaissance. I think like,
yeah,
I think
it has.
the horror genre, I think, was kind of lost for a while there, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that these movies are coming back, and I think are being a lot, gaining in popularity. I think especially, I mean, in terms of like the Blumhouse production of it all and all the movies that they make, I think that definitely contributes to it. And I know I've been going to watch a lot more horror, and I wasn't even a fan of horror growing up.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I think there's so much more out there that I
Yeah.
definitely find myself, like you said earlier,
Yeah.
going to watch a lot more horror movies these days.
Yeah. And you see so many big actors joining in on horror. There's so
Hmm.
many, that Hugh Grant in Heretic,
Yep.
and there's just so many more. Okay, so the next one is Wicked. And so this was the highly anticipated musical adaptation of the Broadway sensation, bringing the story of Elphaba and Glinda to life with stunning visuals and beloved songs. What did you think of Wicked?
I had a lot of fun with this one. This one was, I know, one that people were really excited about, especially people that have watched like the Broadway show. I went into it very blindly. I didn't know too much about this story. I haven't watched the Broadway, but I had a lot of fun. I think like obviously I knew that it was kind of a Wizard of Oz, not spin-off, but I guess kind of leading up to the story in the Wizard
Yeah.
of Oz. So I definitely like had a lot of fun. I think the music was super powerful. I think it was like super catchy, just a lot of fun, I think. And also like really pretty to look at. Like the
Yeah.
colors were definitely popping, like the costumes, the performances, I think, especially Ariana Grande in like the supporting role. I think she was just super charming, and you kind of forget that she was an actress before she was
Right.
a musician, and then it's like, okay, she can really do it all. And I really enjoyed the fact that I listened to an interview of hers, and she was speaking to training her voice so that she could sing these songs, because you know, when you think about her being like Ariana Grande and the songs that she already sings, you think that it's just going to come easy to her, but like she went through several months of training so that she can hit these notes that she isn't
Right.
normally accustomed to hitting in like the songs that we hear from her. What did you think about this film?
I love this film. I actually did a podcast on Wicked and Gladiator 2, so go check that out. But what I want to say is, I had seen the musical and I liked it a lot. But this movie made me love it so much more, because I think I was able to see the expressions and the expressiveness of Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba, her eyes, both of
Hmm.
them, just everything. Because when you're watching from a stage, I mean, it is beautifully done. The stage production is beautiful also, and you feel for it and such. But there's just something about film and just
It's
that,
different.
yeah, you that really close up shot, and you can see their reactions and what they're feeling. And so for that part, I really loved the movie a lot. Also, the production. Yeah. I mean, it is the songs, the timing, everybody was so good in this. Like every single person, the way they danced, the way they sang. Ariana Grande, her comedic timing was
Yeah.
incredible. I had read that Cynthia Erivo, in that last Defying Gravity, that was the last song, because there is two parts. For people who don't know, Wicked is in two parts. This is the first part, and there will be a second part. But at the end, when she's singing that, she's actually singing and doing the choreography of riding around the room or flying around the room. How do you
While she's
sing?
singing.
Yeah. How do you sing and do this physical action as you're doing it? And that's not an easy physical action. You're flying around. So that was incredible. Just that whole relationship. And I just thought it was so well done. Again, as I was watching that Vanity Fair on Notes, I also saw one with John
Jonathan
M.
Chu.
Chu, yes,
Yeah.
who directed this. And they were talking about, he was with I believe the director of photography on this, about the dancing through life scene and that tornado wheel, and how incredibly difficult it was to shoot that. And they gave so much props to Jonathan Bailey in this, because they said he hit his mark every time. He sang so well, he danced, he just performed his butt off, and there was just so much that had to come together perfectly to, for this to come to life. It was just merging of the lighting and the actors, and just so many things. And so I hearing that, I got excited again. I'm like, oh, I want to go watch Wicked again. So I believe it's streaming, but I think you still have to pay for it. So I don't think it's streaming
I
for
want to say,
free yet.
yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
that it's on. Yeah, I'm not sure like what streaming platforms on. You might have to pay to rent, but I mean,
Yeah.
this is one that I would definitely watch again, and
Yeah.
I think it's definitely it's not a short movie. It's a long movie, but
Yeah, that's
it's a
true.
lot of fun too. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
don't really feel, at least I didn't
No,
feel.
I didn't either. Mm-mm.
Yeah, it just kind of like flies by in that way, and I think
Yeah.
that's kind of that's how you know it's a good movie, when you're not waiting for it to end, and like you're having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I'm waiting for that one to come, and part 2. I'm waiting for that one to come so I can watch it again and then prep for part 2. All right. So, let's get to Dune part 2. This epic continuation of Denis
Villeneuve.
I think it's Villeneuve.
I'll trust you on this one. I just
Yeah.
hear it as Denis Villeneuve, but
Well, I thought it was Villeneuve too. That's what I would have said, but I think it's Villeneuve. I think.
let's
Somebody
go with
corrected.
that. Let's
Yeah,
go
yeah,
with
yeah.
that.
Anyway, his sci-fi masterpiece on Paul Atreides' journey in the world of Arrakis with breathtaking visuals and intense storytelling. What did you think of Dune Part 2?
I think this was probably the funnest I had at the movies, I think, this past year. I think it was just like scene after scene of just like it. Yeah, I can't speak enough about how much fun I had at this one. I think that there were so many scenes that like I came away thinking of in terms of, him riding the sandworm, in terms of like his big
Yeah.
speech in front of everyone. I think there was just so much to take away from it. I think it, like the first Dune especially, it was so much world building and so much like setup for this part two. It definitely like pays off, and I think Timothy Chalamet was, I don't know, he was fantastic in it. And I think like we'll talk more about it, I'm sure, when we get to his nomination. But yeah, he did amazing in this film, and I loved it. Well, what did you think?
I loved it too. I was really excited to see it. I'd seen the first one. I really really liked the first one. I really loved the second one. To me, I don't know, it was just so much about it that, and I think it was the whole riding the sandworm thing that kind of was just so cool. And Zendaya being more in it than she was the first one. So, and their interaction. And Timothy Chalamet, I'm a fan of his. I've been a fan of his for a while now, and wow, he's having an extraordinary year after year, actually. I just thought this was incredible. And I was watching the scene of the sandworm and how they were talking about it, and how I have here, wait a minute, Denis Villeneuve. And I heard him say his own name, and I kept rewinding it to say, what is he saying? What is he saying? Anyway, I was listening to him talk about this, and he was inspired. That scene where he puts the thumper in and
Right.
they're waiting, and you can see something in the distance, and it's like you don't know what to expect. And so he said he was inspired by Jaws, and that Steven
Mm,
Spielberg taught him what you don't see is more frightening, which is totally true. And
right.
and I love that he was inspired by that, and that's what struck him when he was filming this part, because he said in the books that it just says what happens, and that he had to create all of this in the film of the motions and the actions of Paul once,
Atreides.
yeah, finally writing it. Like, what
Right.
what does that look like, and how
Right.
are we going to pull this off? And just the cinematography of all of this is just incredible.
Mhm.
It was beautifully done, and he snubbed for best director. Snubbed.
Yeah. No, that's surprising. Like he definitely deserves it. I
Yeah,
don't know how he didn't make the list. I
right.
mean, there's so many spots. I mean, all deserving on the list, but yeah, I think like I definitely would have liked to see him here. There was like so much. And I think like the I forget what the world is called in that particular scene, like in Austin Butler's character's world, like the black and
Oh,
white. I think that whole part of the movie was super cool. Like I really enjoyed that part of it too. So I think like there was so much in here that it's almost like too much to talk about. But
yeah.
I watched it twice. I watched it once here in San Jose, and then I watched it on the IMAX screen in San Francisco. And
Uh,
watching it the second time, it was just as cool. Being able to see it come to life, like it was
yeah.
it was incredible.
Ah, that sounds like a lot of fun and a great way to watch it. So,
Hmm.
and this you can stream, and I need to watch it again. I haven't yet, but I will. All right. So, in talking about Timothy Chalamet, we are going to head it over into A Complete Unknown. And here, Timothy Chalamet stars as a young Bob Dylan in this fascinating and educational biopic exploring the early rise to fame and the complex relationships. So, what did you think about this one?
I really like that I didn't know too much about about Bob Dylan, so it kind of educated me on his emergence as an artist, coming into his own. I think that one thing, this is just like something on a personal note, when I watch biopics, especially about musicians, I think that one thing that I tend to not like is when they cover too much ground or too many years
Mm-hmm.
in a
Mm-hmm.
in a short time span. and they don't give enough like attention to a particular moment in time. I think I appreciated that this movie didn't do that. I like that it's very contained from his emergence to like a specific part in his
Yeah.
stardom, and that I think was really smart because the movies that I'm speaking to, Elvis comes to mind. I think a Bohemian Rhapsody, I think, comes to mind, and I like those movies. I really do. But I think this one, I think, if I had to say, I think this one is better than those films, just because I like what it did and all of the music as well. There was a lot of music here, which sounds a little silly of me to say because obviously it's a musical biopic, but I
Yeah.
think like more than usual musical biopics, there was always a performance going, and I think Timothée Chalamet, I think he did really well in terms of not trying to imitate Bob
Hmm.
Dylan, but it's still his voice, it's still Timothée Chalamet's voice, but he just kind of carries like the little nuances of Bob Dylan's voice. He's not trying to imitate him, just kind of tastefully like recreate him, and I really like that he did that. But yeah, what did you think?
Oh my gosh, you said that so well, and I couldn't agree with you more. I had said the same thing about taking that portion, it was the early 60s of his life, and
Hmm.
not like the whole time span of him being around. And to be perfectly honest, back in the day, I or when I was younger, I knew Bob Dylan, and I wasn't a huge fan of his. Not and I don't mean that I didn't like his songs or anything. I just didn't, they weren't in my realm. I heard them, I knew some of them, but I didn't know a lot of them. And so I was very intrigued and wanted to see this film. Plus, Timothée Chalamet was in it. So why wouldn't I go watch it? He's in
Yeah.
it. But I just felt so informed by watching this. I had no idea what it was like, and I like when you get a glimpse into something that really happened, and you see it, and the musical influences. Like, I had no idea he was friends with Johnny Cash and they were sort of these pen pals in a way. I thought that was a very cool relationship that I had no idea.
Right.
And just how Joan Baez, who was very, very popular at that time and established already, and how that worked out, and also how Bob and his girlfriend, is it Susie? She's a composite. They have a different name in the film, but it's a composite of a different character or
Right.
characters. That relationship was a bit heartbreaking, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I agree with you with his performance. And because you know that Bob Dylan has this very distinguishable voice, it was slightly like that, but it wasn't full-fledged like that, and I never felt like, and I do this with other ones. I did it with Rami as Freddie Mercury in
Mercury. Right.
Queen, that, oh, it kinda looks like him. He's singing like him, and, like, you can't help but compare. And Elvis, and it's like, "Oh, well, he looks like him, and he's singing like him." But this, you're right, it's like you were in it, seeing it, the movie, in Timothée Chalamet's character of him. It's not like you said, "Oh, does it look like Bob Dylan? Does it?"
Yeah.
Because I don't know what Bob Dylan looked at that like when he was that young. I mean, sure, I've seen pictures, but
Hmm.
I just think that this movie worked in that way for that. And I just think that the storyline, and also with Edward Norton in it, he was really good in his role.
It was
Just the real,
fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, just the relationships. And for people that haven't seen it, he's trying to emerge as this artist, and they want him to keep him in folk music because that is their, what they love, and these folk festivals. But Bob Dylan wants to explore with electric and what that is like. And so that's sort of what this movie is highlighting, is Bob Dylan trying to take his own road, his own route with that. So I just thought it was a really well done movie. Timothée Chalamet just was so good in it, and his vocals were really good in it.
Yeah, he
And
does. He actually sounds really good. Actually, he does sound good.
what's interesting? He sounds really good, but he doesn't sound like perfection. It's not
Yeah.
like his voice is incredible. Oh my gosh. No, it's just, it's it feels real, like authentic, especially for that time. So I just appreciated it so much. Okay, side note, did you see Wonka?
I did. Yeah.
I liked
What did
it.
you think?
I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was great. And
No,
so he
I
sings
liked
in
it
that
too.
too. So there you go. All right. And I just wanted to quickly mention the director's name, and it's James Mangold. So really well done. So that was a great movie. Okay. So I'm Still Here is a historical drama about a mother forced to rebuild her life after her family is targeted by Brazil's military dictatorship in 1971. I haven't seen this movie,
I also have not seen
unfortunately.
this movie,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So we're in the
But
same boat.
yeah, but I will say I hear nothing but good things about it, about the performances. I have two friends that I know that have watched it and really both enjoyed the movie.
Hmm.
So I can't wait till until it streams where I can see it. I'm excited to see it, but
Yeah.
true story. Is there anything you want to say about it or
No, yeah, I mean, similar to you, I've heard nothing but good things. Want to watch it. It wasn't one that was on my radar, so I think when I saw the 10 movies nominated for this, it was kind of a surprise. I think it was one that I wasn't anticipating seeing, but I mean, that being said, like I definitely will be watching it now.
yeah. It is a foreign film.
Hmm.
So just so people are aware of that. Oh, and then the next one is The Nickel Boys. So this is a powerful drama, chronicles the deep friendship between two young Black teenagers navigating the harrowing realities of Florida Reform School. I have not seen this one either, unfortunately.
Hmm. Same, unfortunately.
And a friend of mine did see this and she enjoyed the film a lot. The only thing she had to get used to was the way it was filmed was almost through that person's eyes, meaning when they would talk to someone, you would see that other person. But you know how sometimes it cuts back to the person talking? Well, it wouldn't do that because you're
Right.
seeing it through that person's eyes. So
Hmm.
that's the one thing that you would need to know going into this film. But I know that a lot of people, critics out there, really love this film. And I do believe that it is coming out, I believe, on Hulu the weekend of the weekend of the Oscars. So people will be able to catch it if they want to beforehand.
Sweet. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll take your word for it. I'm gonna check it out. Hopefully they'll have it.
Yeah. All right. So we've just reviewed some really awesome, great films. And I would love to know what three would you recommend to a friend?
Yeah, it's tough to pick just because there's so many. I think I'm gonna go with the first one I'd start off with is definitely Dune Part Two. It's not it's not gonna win Best Picture by any means. I don't think it's gonna win, but this is just like for my personal taste. I had a lot of fun with it. I think like for a franchise film,
Yeah.
I think it was like very well done, and I'm looking forward to Dune Messiah. I saw that they're gonna start filming this summer actually, so hopefully we don't have to wait too long until the next one. But yeah, this is definitely one that I think people will have a lot of fun with. Hopefully they will have watched the first Dune, or otherwise they're not
Yeah.
gonna understand what is going on. Second one, I think I would have to go with A Complete Unknown as well. Just a I think for me, especially like my generation, I don't think we know a lot about Bob Dylan. I think like if you when I talk to my friends about watching that movie, oh, do you know anything about Bob Dylan's music? They're like, no, not really. I think my dad likes that music, so it's not
Yeah.
really like our generation's music, but
Yeah.
I enjoyed learning about him through this movie. So and I started to listen to his music through it. So
Yeah.
I really appreciated that part of it. And I think the last one, it was a toss up between the Brutalist and Anora. I think I just go with Anora. I think like I really enjoyed this one. Again, like I like that it didn't go the way that I was thinking it was gonna go, but I had a lot of fun with it. I think like the leads were like super charming, and the Brutalist, like for me to leave it out of the top three, I think that could be kind of controversial because I definitely enjoyed
It's
this movie.
it's just your recommendations just
Yeah.
for a friend.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. And that's the thing I think that like plays into it because I don't
Right.
know that like I
Which
would
friend?
recommend to
Yeah, which
yeah,
friend am I
exactly. Like
recommending it to? Right?
I don't
Because
think that like a normal moviegoer would want want to watch this movie just because
Right.
it's so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
what are your top three?
Mine is hard. So I love your top three. I think that that is so amazing. And I love the ones that you picked. And I have a hard time too, because again, who are you recommending these to?
Hmm.
So when thinking about which three I'm going to recommend, I'm just trying to go to the masses here. I'm not going to the people who are cinephiles, because that's what the Oscar part is for, I think. So if I was just going to recommend a movie, I would say for me, it would be Dune Part 2, because it's epic. Timothée Chalamet is in it. It is beautiful to look at and it's a great story. I would say Wicked,
Hmm.
because I do love musicals. I do think that Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande are so good, and it's funny at
Hmm.
points, but touching. So I think that kind of helps those two. The third one is hard. It really is hard. And I thought about Anora, I thought about The Brutalist, but really, in my mind, I have to go with The Substance,
Hmm.
because I was so affected by watching that. And yes, the ending is really hard to watch, but I think the message is so important and what it speaks to me. So that would be the three that I would pick.
Sweet. Well, there's some overlap, just the one overlap, but I like that it was
Yeah.
different. So
Yeah, exactly. Right. So people can take that as it is. But that's why I say I love yours, because I love the fact that younger people can listen and learn from watching a movie about Bob Dylan. I think that's incredible.
Mhm.
So, all right. So we are going to get to our nominees for Best Actress in a Leading Role. And the nominees are Cynthia Erivo in Wicked, Carla Sofia Gascon in Emilia Perez, Mikey Madison in Anora, Demi Moore in The Substance, and Fernanda Torres in I'm Still Here. Do you have any thoughts on these? I know we kind of talked a little bit about the performances. So, what did you think about any of these performances that you saw?
Yeah, I think the one that definitely stands out is Mikey Madison in Anora. I don't know that she's gonna win the award, but I
She
like that
could.
she's listed here as like her first starring role in a movie. So I'm glad to see her here. I don't know that she's gonna win just based off of if it's gonna be anything like the Golden Globes was. I mean, we're looking at Carla Sofia Gascon, but then obviously, I mean, not sure if you heard, but there's some controversy around hers.
Yes.
Have you heard
Yes.
about that?
Yes, I have. There,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think that like that kind of affects the race
it
because
does.
as
Yeah.
much as you wouldn't want any like outside noise to affect like what the movie is, that it does play into it.
Yeah.
So now what I will say is I think that Demi Moore is going to walk away with the award. I think that she definitely deserves it. I'd be happy to see her win it. But yeah, all very deserving.
This is hard because everybody gave great performances. It's funny, but Cynthia Erivo in Wicked was amazing, like incredible. And no one is really talking about it because of some of the other performances. So, Carla, yes, she was, you have to watch it to see her performance, but yeah, she's playing two different roles here. That's saying a lot, right? Being able to portray that and just her performance as Emilia and what she's going through. And I told you that tension that I was feeling about, like, is she going to react a certain way? What's going to happen? So that's really interesting. But I really think that that is not going to work in her favor with what is currently happening.
Yeah.
Mikey
Tweets that have been
Madison,
digged up and all that. Yeah. So it's
yeah,
tough.
and Mikey Madison, now that I've seen this, now I know what everybody's talking about because I hadn't seen it until just recently. Wow, that portrayal is amazing. And she's been picking up some awards at some of the latest award shows. And they say those are kind of precursor to what's going to happen. So I think she is
Maybe Dark Horse or
I think
something like
she's
that
a
with that.
contender. I think
Yeah.
she's a contender. I really do. I think that me looking at this, and I know we're going to get to our picks in just a second, but maybe I'll wait to say it then. But Demi Moore, I just think she's flat out amazing in this. And She's been acting for a long time. I've loved her and everything, but I've never seen her like this. And I'm
Right.
so glad that she got this role. I'm, she felt down and out about her all her acting experiences and people telling her she was a popcorn actress, meaning that, people just want to see you and this and that. You're really not like leading actress award winning. And it's like, okay, no, I'm going to show you I can be
Like watch this.
with this, yeah, with this role. And also, there were so many times that she didn't speak. She was just reacting, and to not have lines, which a lot of this was no lines, it's easier to hide behind lines and to get your feeling out through lines. Um, but when you don't have that and you can still convey what you're feeling, that
Yeah.
is extraordinary. And that is why I think this performance is so good. And then Fernanda Torres, I haven't seen this again, but I've heard she's so compelling. She is trying to find her husband who's been kidnapped and missing, and she becomes an activist because of it. And it's not because she is an activist, it's because she wants to get to the truth. And I hear her performance is just amazing. So I look forward to seeing that one.
It's tough. Like it really is like a toss up. I don't think that there's a
Clear winner.
lead.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very tough.
All right, let's get to nominees for actor in a leading role. So we have Adrian Brody, The Brutalist, Timothée Chalamet, A Complete Unknown, Coleman Domingo in Sing Sing, Rafe Fiennes in Conclave, and Sebastian Stan in The Apprentice. So what did you think about any of these performances?
The one that stands out, I think I go towards Adrian Brody. I think that's the one that I would say is, I mean, they're all deserving. I think they're all deserving of being on this list, but I think like the work that goes into Adrian Brody's
Yeah.
performance as Laszlo, I mean, he was fantastic. And I think that him being winning so young in The Pianist, and it being like this long until he's being recognized again, I
Yeah.
think is really beautiful. I think it's again what we spoke about earlier in terms of it being something that is very close to his heart. So I think it's very much like a love letter in that way.
Yeah.
Seeing all the rest of these nominees, I appreciate seeing Timothée Chalamet here because he definitely deserves it. I don't know that this is the one that he's going to break through and win an award. I think like it definitely reminds me of kind of like a Leonardo DiCaprio situation where he's gonna get the shine, he's gonna get the
Yeah.
nominations, but I don't think that it's his time yet. Even though he's gonna get there, like I don't think that there's a doubt that
No.
he's gonna get an award. It's only a matter of time, but
Yeah.
I'm happy to see him here. And then the other call out, I think Sebastian Stan is his portrayal of Donald Trump, I think, was very. I mean, it was pretty accurate. Like the nuances, his dialogue, his movements, like everything. Like I think he definitely like hit it on the head. So yeah, I think those are the big call outs for me. But yeah, what did you think?
I didn't see that film. So
Mhm.
you saw that film.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
I did.
cool. All right. Well, I haven't seen it, so I can't give my feedback on Sebastian Stan in that, but I've seen him in so many other things, and he's such a good actor.
Mhm.
So I'm so glad that he got the nominations. Okay, Adrian Brody, he's incredible. This performance was amazing. We've talked about it and what he brought to it, and what he drew from, and it was very emotional. And I talked about that scene with him just at the very beginning of the film and just all the way through, and so just so incredible. Timothée Chalamet, I already told you I'm such a big fan, but he leads in two of the nominated films. What does that say, right? You're
Yeah,
in two movies that are up for Oscar nomination. So you brought that there. Your portrayal in these brought these films there. And he has to feel so good about that and has to know what that means. I mean, that's incredible. And being so young and doing that. And he's incredible in both those films.
right.
But you're right. It's hard because the people that pick it, it just all depends on where it falls. And Adrian Brody, yeah, his portrayal in the Pianist when he first won that first Oscar, oh my God, that movie was so good. And he was just played it so well. And is he going to do it again? I kind of think he could. It's so good. I don't know. But I do want to bring up Coleman Domingo. I've been a fan of Coleman Domingo for a very long time. He was in Fear the Walking Dead, which is a spinoff of The Walking Dead. It was on for 8 seasons. And I have known him since then, but I've seen him in Euphoria. I have seen him in Rustin. I have seen him in other movies that I can't even say as many as that he's been in right now, but I've seen him a lot. And
Right.
he's in a series called The Madness on Netflix. So good. So I love him as an actor. He's so
Mhm.
good. And I just watched Sing Sing last night because I had to watch it because I knew he was nominated for that. It's such a good movie. It's such a great role. He's in prison for something he didn't do. And while he is in prison, he is, they're putting on play productions. And it's just about his love for that and meeting another inmate who's a little more rough around the edges, and just how they kind of first have a little bit of friction, but then how that evolves, and what they become to each other later on in the film. And just it's a really great film. It has been on some critics top lists. So it's
Mhm.
kind of interesting that Sing Sing wasn't in the nominated list. It's a great movie, great performance. So I would recommend that people check that movie out.
Mhm.
And then we've talked about Ray Fiennes in Conclave. He's really, really good. He's good at anything.
Yeah, yeah.
So
He usually is.
he who should not be named, Voldemort. So, and just so many other things. He's in so many movies that I've seen that I love him in. So he's such a great actor. But it was a very subtle performance. So I wonder if people will really, recognize his performance in this. But so I'm glad he's nominated here.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So were there any other nominations that came to mind for you? Any other movies or performances that came to mind?
Not necessarily performance snubs or surprises, but I do want to call out, just show some love to challengers, because I know
Oh
that
yeah.
it was one of my favorite movies of last year, and I was, after having watched it, I thought it was going to get a lot more love at the Academy Awards,
Yeah.
and seeing that it's not being featured as much as I would hope. As a big fan of it, just want to give it some flowers. Like, I think that it was a lot of fun, and very surprised that it didn't get, if I'm not mistaken, it didn't get nominated for best score either. So, and which was very surprising, because I think like
Right.
the synth music and of it all was really cool to hear. And yeah, just a little sad for it, but just want to show it some love.
Yeah. That was a good movie. I took me a long time to watch it. I just watched it not that long ago. And I will say I started it and then I paused it because I had to do something. And it took me a while to get back. Then I got back to it. I'm like, oh, this was a really good movie. I
Yeah.
really liked it. I didn't quite like how things panned out, but that's just me
And
wanting it.
I've heard the same from other people.
Yeah, wanting it to go a certain way and it didn't. So you have to check it out. And I love Zendaya. I think she's amazing, and I
Hmm.
love her as an actress and love seeing her. But I wanted to bring up, we already talked about Zoe Saldana in Emilia, which you haven't seen yet, Emilia
Right.
Perez, but she is so good in it. So I'm really pulling for her to win Best Supporting Actress. But I also wanted to bring up Kieran Culkin, who is in A Real Pain for Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah.
Have you seen this movie?
I haven't yet. No, I
Okay.
haven't.
It's a good movie. It's really good. And his portrayal, at first I was like bothered by him in the role, but
Why is
when
that?
because he's very he can come off being annoying until you understand the underlying what he's going through and the grief that's happening and what he's experiencing. And then because I can't don't want to give anything away, but just his journey of where he is and what he's maybe hiding, or
Hmm.
where you don't realize certain things until it comes to the end, and then you're like, oh man, that hurts a little. So his portrayal is really, really good. He was annoying in Succession, right? So he
Yeah, what
kind
I
of had,
hear is like he's
yeah.
just kind of like very much like Kieran Culkin. Like he's very much like the characters that he's portrayed is very similar
Mm.
to this. I mean, I haven't watched it yet, but That's kind
Yeah.
of what I'm hearing, and if I'm not mistaken, he is like the front runner for this award.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I hear too. And that's why I wanted to bring him up because I think he might win this one.
Right, right.
And the only snub I want to bring is I was a fan of Gladiator 2 and Denzel, and he wasn't nominated. So I'm like, oh man, I
Mhm.
love Denzel and all his roles. So, and then we also already talked about Denis. Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
never
let's do
going to
that. Yeah.
say his name right. Anyway, for Dune Part 2. And there were so many others, but I haven't watched them all. But I just felt like I wanted to watch Nicole Kidman in Baby Girl, and I haven't seen it yet. But I'm thinking, oh, I'm sure she probably deserves some recognition. And I haven't,
Yeah,
I
I have
haven't.
watched that one. I've watched that one. I'm
You
glad you brought that
did?
up. Yeah, yeah, I did watch that one. Yeah, and yeah, she was great. Like it was an interesting film. I don't know that it was like one of my favorites, but I think like her performance in it, I think she was definitely deserving, and yeah, definitely snub. So I'm glad you called that out.
Ah, good. Well, that's good to know. And also, I wanted to watch, and I haven't seen this yet either, Showgirls, The Last Showgirl with Pamela Anderson.
Mhm.
In fact, Michelle and I were supposed to go see this, but it wasn't playing like anywhere when we wanted to go see it. Wasn't playing anywhere. It was like far away. I'm like, what's up with this? It's not even like in the theaters close by. So we never went to go see it. So I think it'll be streaming soon. So I can't wait to watch that. All right. So I want to get to our picks, Renee. We're going to give our best lead actress, our best lead actor, and our best picture. So, best lead actress. What is your prediction?
I want to say, and I think I might have called it out prematurely, but I think I'm gonna go with Demi Moore for the Substance. I think that's the one that I'm hoping to see, the one that I'd like to see. Given like the momentum of the movie, I think it's picking up. So I think I'm gonna go with that. I could be completely wrong, but I'm gonna go with her.
Well, I am going to go with Demi Moore because I think she deserves it. And I really hope she wins. I think Mikey Madison is the second person that I think could upset that win.
Right, right.
That's what I think. So I don't know. And I also saw Fernanda Torres win at one, so I don't know. It's so hard, but I'm hoping Demi Moore wins. That's what I am saying as my prediction. Okay. Best lead actor.
I think I'm gonna go with Adrian Brody. I think that's the clear pick, at least in my eyes. I think again, like all deserving actors on this list, but yeah, given his performance and like how much he put into it, I think that's the pick. And if the Golden Globes again, like if it follows
Indicator.
suit, then I think
Yeah.
yeah, if it's any indication about where it's gonna go, which sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. I think as of late it is. So that's what I think we'll be seeing.
I also say Adrian Brody. His performance was just simply amazing and just so gripping and emotional. And yeah, I really think he's going to win. If he doesn't, secretly, I'm always pulling for Timothée Chalamet. So I'll say that.
I
Okay.
wouldn't be mad at it. I wouldn't be mad at that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then for best picture, this one is hard. So I don't even know. I don't know what I'm going to pick. What are you going to pick?
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, because I mean, I hate to pick without having watched all of these. If I had to go based on like the momentum of the movies and the fact that it's gotten so many nominations, I'm leaning towards Emilia Perez just based on what's been happening. But I think the Brutalist could walk away with this award. It's difficult because like I don't think that there's a clear winner in this one. I think like last year it was very clearly Oppenheimer, at least like leading up to it, and I think that was like the clear winner. With this one, could go any which way, so that's tough. But I think I'm gonna go Amelia Perez. What do you think?
I am going to say Anora. I don't know why. That's just me going with what I'm feeling. I think it's getting some momentum and I think it's different and I think people like it, are really actually gravitating toward it. I kind of felt like The Brutalist could win because it is an Oscar movie, right? So
Right.
if The Brutalist win, I will not be surprised at all. I'm saying Anora because I'm trying to be a little bit surprising, right? Of what people,
Okay, no,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
fair.
The Brutalist feels like it should win because it just checks all these boxes, and it would be
Yeah.
great. And I would be like, yep, I could see that win. I was just trying to be different. And so that's why I'm picking Anora, because it just might switch there. And deep down, way down inside me, do I want the substance to win? Of course. Just because
And
it's
you know
shocking.
what's funny? I
Yeah.
a lot of like my favorite movie podcast. Gonna shout out like The Big Picture if any
Yeah.
like cinephiles want other podcasts to listen to as well. But their favorite film of last year was Anora, so I'm not surprised to hear you say or like call them out. Like when they
Yeah.
watched that movie, they were saying that I think like this is my pick to win Best Picture. So I wouldn't be surprised in any ways to see that one, but
Yeah.
it's definitely not like a front runner, but I'd be happy to see it win.
It's very watchable, though. I
Mhm.
mean, as long as you're okay with the sex scenes that happen, because there are some people who don't want to watch that. But as long as you know that, it's very watchable, and it has comical bits, and then it's emotional too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it could win. Okay, so that is our wrap up of those Oscar nominations. So I don't know, Rene, we'll figure out how we do. I can't wait to revisit this afterwards and see how well we
How we
did.
did. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
But I do want to get to our question of the day, which is, what is your favorite movie from 2024 that was not nominated?
I called it out already, and I'm happy to give it its flowers again. I'm gonna say Challengers. Like I think Challengers is the clear pick. It's definitely one that like speaks to like my interests. I mean, I played tennis growing up, so I played tennis like every now and then. I had a group of friends that we would, not recently, but around the time the movie came out, we were going to play tennis like once every week, and when we planned to watch it together, we went to play tennis, and then we went straight to the movies to watch it. So that was
Ah,
like a really fun day, and we had a lot of fun with it. Like as a tennis fan, something really cool. This is just a random note that I heard. One of the scenes in the movie where they're at the Applebee's in Cincinnati. Apparently, and I didn't know this until now. Apparently, that's like a super like that's very intentional that they're setting that scene in Applebee's, because apparently there's not too much out to eat over there, like near where the Cincinnati Open actually happens. So a
ah.
lot of like top tennis players go to that Applebee's because there's not that much around. So that was like a really cool call out that I didn't know about. I appreciate that they do that and like try to stay authentic to the game. I just had a lot of fun with it. Like I love this movie. Yeah, that's definitely like my clear pick. What would you say?
Well, I just want to say I love that movie that you picked, because it's one of those movies that sits with me, and I appreciate it more and more and more. And that happens to me a lot. Um, so I wish I had thought about that, but I didn't. So I'm not picking that one. There were so many movies last year. I watched 86 that I logged, and I watch a lot of TV shows. So the fact that I also watched 86 movies, that's a lot. And I told you horror was one of my big genres. And there were a lot that were so good. And so my mind went to, I liked Civil War. Will I pick that one?
Hmm.
I liked Quiet Place Day One. It was so different than the others. And I really loved the relationship in there, the friendship. Will I pick that? Which one am I going to pick? One of my sons said Nosferatu. That was the best movie I saw last year. And I'm like, oh, that was a good movie too. So we didn't talk about any snubs for that one either. I don't even know if it was in the realm of being picked, but
Right.
I saw Mad Max Furiosa, the Mad
Hmm.
Max, and I like that one. Oh, there's so many. But okay, I'm going to go with a fun movie, and that is The Fall Guy, because I love Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. I thought that was a great, fun movie that was really well done. It was a
Yeah.
throwback to 80s action films. So I just loved it. Thought it was great. And
Hmm.
so that
I
would
like
be
that
my
pick. I love that
recommendation.
movie. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So we all need some fun. So, all right, friends out there, what do you think? What is your favorite movie from 2024 that was not nominated for an Oscar? We would love to know. You can comment here on YouTube, Spotify, or any of our social media. You can get to all of it at screensandfocus.com. You can even call us. If you just have to call us and say, I want to speak my favorite movie, you can call us at 669-223-8542 because we would love to know what your favorite film of 2024 is. All right. The Oscars will be live Sunday, March 3rd. So be sure to check them out. And I will have a follow up blog on what happened, break it all down. All right, Rene, thank you so much for
Thank
joining me
you.
today. I loved your insight. I love your take. I love all your predictions and all of even your favorite movie for 2024. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. No, this was fun.
Awesome. All right, friends out there, thank you for tuning in. We are so grateful you joined us today, and we hope we said something that resonated with you, gave you a smile, a chuckle, some inspiration. Please be sure to subscribe to Screens in Focus at screensandfocus.com. And remember to keep watching, keep exploring, and keep those screens in focus. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.